Okay, so I decided to check out this new documentary. It's called a sex. Whew. It is called a sexplanation. Yes, there you go. Do not know why that just fumbled, but yes, it is from Alex Liu, who directs and co-writes with Leonardo Neri. Um, it is executive produced by both of them, along with Stephen Flynn, Scott Hunt, and Jackie Luck. The music is from Moritz Shimatatat. Cinematography is Brian Emmerich. Production management is Yumi Jiang. Art direction is Elizabeth Wadrerick. Yeah, that's essentially all of that kind of stuff. Um, Cast wise, so we've got Lou, like he's the I mean, he's the person talking to us a lot of the time, instigating conversations and whatnot. And he speaks with a load of different researchers, scientists, people in the sex field, like on that education front. I understand. So people in the sex field could mean anything. There's no prostitutes or anything like that. Yeah, there's people, working at like Planned Parenthood and things like that, right? So we have people such as Laurie Bettio, Kirsten Gilbert, Donald Godfrey, Barry Komisaruk, Lisa Medoff, Julie Metzger, Annabelle Scheinberg, Todd Weller, Nan Wise, and Bill Yarber. So, what is this about exactly? What is this? A sexplanation is just your typical queer Asian American comedic sex education documentary about the universal search for love, connection, and family acceptance. To right the wrong of his all American sex education, 36-year-old health reporter Alex Liu goes on a quest to uncover naked truths and hard facts, no matter how awkward it gets. From neuroscience labs to church pews, a sexplanation features provocative conversations with psychologists, sex researchers, and even a Jesuit priest. With humor and grit, Alex takes audiences on a playful, heartfelt journey from a shame filled past to a happier, healthier, sexier future. Like many Americans in the 90s, the adults in Alex's life taught him that abstinence made him good. These tactics worked to suppress his sexuality all the more because he was gay. But ultimately, years of repression disconnected him from his body, his desires, and his families. Now in his 30s, Alex still hasn't outgrown these hang ups. The fear mongering from school, media, and religion continues to permeate throughout his life in both big ways and smalls. Fed up, Alex decides it's time to turn years of fear and loathing into something positive and humorous. A, splex, a, a sexplanation follows his pursuit of shame free pleasure and call for comprehensive sex education. Along the way, he's surprised to discover it's never too late to have the talk, even with his parents. So, yeah, there you go. Now, it's interesting, I would say, because he wants to cover a lot of these things. And I think it starts off, right, with him saying that he kind of would repress everything to the extent that he nearly took his own life, which is kind of brushed away. Like he mentions it one other time But just as a quick comment like that. And I kind of feel if you're gonna say that, you kind of need to go into what the fuck was happening, right? Because otherwise, why say it? You know what I mean? Like, because when we meet his parents, right, and he talks to his parents, which I don't know. Again, there's an odd thing with the talks with his parents. In like they might have talked abstinence, or in their mind they explained in their mind what was going on, right? But they don't care he's gay, so it's like if your parents don't care you're gay, what is the issue here? You know? Now, it's not to say there wasn't an issue, but what I mean is, when we're talking about these things, unless we're fully honest about every single thing, it makes people go, oh, I can do that or I can't do that, but without all the facts. You know what I mean? So, was there a point when he first came out and they weren't as accepting? You know what I mean? Like, what's the thing? What's stopping those conversations? Now, his parents do say, well, we didn't want to just kind of force this conversation on you. So we were kind of waiting for you to start it. Then we would have happily told you about sex, but you never asked. Which again is, I feel it's something, right? In this documentary he shows like different people talking, all these researchers and people, and everyone does say a comprehensive sex education is the best way forward, which, yeah, I think it makes sense, right? Definitely makes sense. Why repress information, because if people don't know about sex, they're likely gonna get pregnant. You know what I mean? Worst case scenario, or a sexual disease. You know what I mean? It's a little, and a lot of these sexual diseases, yeah, you can cure and get rid of. Some of them, they're with you for life. You can control them, but they're with you. So I think most people would rather understand what we need to do to prevent these things from going on, right? There is that. But I think a thing that I need to be to have that open conversation, you need to be able to talk about anything, you know? Because one of the other people said, um, oh, you shouldn't just wait for your kids to ask you questions. Like you have to talk about it with them until they know they can talk about it with you. And I'm just like, I mean, there is that, but also if you just have this open dialogue, right? You can talk about anything, then they will just talk to you about it. Because if you could say to them and be like, yo, got into a fight, man, or, like, man, I just don't feel like anything today, or, but whatever. And your parents are like, go to your room, or no, you're doing it. Like, if you could just have these frank conversations, then you could have a conversation about sex education. You can talk about that shit. You know what I mean? Like, if you could just say, oh, I've got a crush on this girl, I've got a crush on this guy. They'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, I remember those days, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? So then when they be like, man, I don't know what's going on. My dick moved. I saw a picture of something and my dick went boom. What's that about? You'd be like, uh, you've had your first erection. You know what I mean? Like you could have a conversation, but I think it's not just about that. It's about this frank and honest communication in general, right? And if you haven't got that, it's going to be hard to have these conversations because if you like, look, if people don't trust each other or feel they can talk to each other on other stuff, they're definitely not going to do it on this. You know what I mean? So I feel there's that. Um, it's it's kind of like a lot of topics kind of got brought up, and not all of them fully were explored. Right? There's this thing about this study with MRI machines. And so these scientists were mapping people to look at what parts of the brain kind of instigate sex, or, you know what I mean, think about sex, right? Just all of this stuff, which I don't know, right? Because everyone is different, you know what I mean? So I mean, and we know there's different things that stimulate different people. So it's just like, is that something that is going to be the same on everyone? You know what I mean? But it was kind of just brushed over. They showed him in the MRI machine. They had a quick kind of chat, but didn't really go into it. You know, it's like when he talked to the priest again, it was all very quick, and it is a bit kind of crazy because the priest is just like, oh yeah, like every conversation's a sexual conversation because we're people and blah blah. And you're just like, hey, nah, shut up, man. Right? I say shut up because, hey, not all priests are bad, right? We know that. Like, not all police are bad, but with the church, there are clear indicators on things. Like, I remember during lockdown, the Pope had a lot to say on certain things. And and there was something about gay marriage. And I remember him going, like, oh no, people should have the right to you know what I mean, be with whoever they want to be. But I'm not doing gay marriage. You know what I mean? That's essentially what he said. And it was just like, I mean, what are we saying here? Right? You're trying to be like, oh yeah, I'm open, not that open. You know what I mean? And it's just like, this priest could say whatever, but if your church is saying you can't do these things, then that priest ain't gonna do those things. You know what I mean? It's just like the church has this track record on a lot. And it's again, not all priests are the same, but if the institution as a whole is saying this one thing, right? It's like how they hide pedos. You know what I mean? It's just like you can meet anyone who will say one thing, but if the overall thing is this, what that priest says doesn't matter, you know? And the other thing is, we're seeing a lot of short conversations that have clearly been edited. You know, so it's just like, okay, what else was said? Because you've given us this nice little part, but the way we come into this conversation, everyone's like, so this wasn't the start of the conversation, clearly. So what else was said? Right? That's the thing about all of this. When it's edited, you can show anything, right? You can show a fragment of it, could be a off-key conversation, and one little moment is decent, right? And that's what we see. And so you think, oh, that was great, but no, it wasn't. Essentially, it wasn't. But yeah, so you get a lot of these different messages out there and everything like that, and it's just like, huh. There was a woman, I think it was Kirsten Gilbert. I think that was yeah, Kirsten Gilbert. She said some hokey bullshit. Now, not everything she said was hokey, right? But there was a bit, and he was just like, oh fuck, what did he say to her? I think he asked her, like, what is sex? Because as he asked this institute in Vancouver, it was like this sexual institute in Vancouver. It's like, what sex? And everyone's like, oh, that's a difficult thing. Oh, oh. And it's just a load of people going, ooh, oh, and you're just like, what the fuck are you doing? Right? What the fuck? Like, because essentially sex is two people or more, right? You know, getting down, right? It could be oral, it could be like touch, there can be penetration, you know what I mean? But all of that, it's sex. You know what I'm saying? Now, when like they then try to this Kirsten, she tried to get mad as ugh. Yeah, I'm fumbling on that word, but she tried to get crazy with it. You know what I mean? Um, and she's just like, oh, it's when you're with someone and you do stuff, and there's a thing in your mind that goes, oh, you did that to me? Yeah, you did. And you look in their eyes and you feel this. And I'm just like, no, 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 that's that's not sex, right? That's something more. You know what I mean? Because it's just like, listen, you don't have to like someone or love someone to have sex with that person, right? And we know this. What are we fucking doing? We know this is a fact. You know what I mean? Like people cheat, people do many things. You know what I mean? Just sleep with someone, and it's just like, I don't know why I did that. I was just horny. Right? People just sleep. You can't fuck someone without all the other stuff. So going, oh yeah, sex is when you make this connection with someone and oh the earth moves and you feel like that's not sex. Right? You can say that's love. You can say that's lust. You can say that's all these other things. But essentially, sex is just two or more people. There's threesomes. There's, you know, I forget what you call foursomes. There's a word for it, right? You got that. There's multiple delineations of peoples, right? That you could say that's sex. A gangbang is sex. Is it loving? No. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. It's just like there's a separation between the two, but sex is this act, is these things that you do. As I said, you know what I mean? It can be penetration in any way, right? When I say any way, I'm saying like doggy, missionary, just any of them positions. You know what I mean? Like you could be standing up on your side, just all of these things, right? That's sex. It can you can penetrate just with, fingers, right? Finger stimulation, oral stimulation, right? You that's sex. You like phone sex, right? You could or video sex. You were talking to someone, and you're both touching each other. That yeah, you can say that's all sex. But love doesn't come into that. Now, you can bring it in, right? You can bring caring, emotion, all of these things you can bring in, which elevates it to something else. But yeah, don't be teaching that shit, right? Because that's where it gets problematic. You know what I mean? Being like, oh, if someone, you know what I mean? Because that's the thing, people be like, oh, well, I love you. That's why I want to fuck you. And then, then they disappear. And then someone's just like, wait, I thought we loved each other. We just had sex. We're like, you know what I mean? Look, we cannot do that. That's some crazy shit, you know? Whew. So yeah, there's all of these things that it takes a look at, right? And Alex tries to cover. He has he does talk to a lot of people, which is good with these things. Because I think sometimes you talk to just a small group, right? And then it's everything is based on that. And that's a problem. Now, he does like there's a bit where he talks to his friends and he's like, oh well, these are my smartest friends, which I'm like, yeah, just these are the smartest people you know. You probably know other people just as smart. Just for someone smart doesn't mean they know anything about sex, right? So it's a like, it is funny because all of that is very orchestrated. You know what I mean? You're choosing what people you want in this kind of circle to have this conversation. It's not like, oh, just whoever showed up shows up and we're talking. No, obviously not. And then it's the on the street. Yeah, I mean, there's a bit on the street where it's just like, oh, what's this on the human body? Can you tell me what this is? And a lot of people couldn't, but we see these things, right? It's just like, tell us what country this is, and people be like, oh, that's all, you know what I mean? And you get all these wrong answers, but it's just like, how many right answers were edited off? You know, what I mean? That's the only thing with things like that. You wonder how many people did point everything out correctly, but you're just like, that doesn't work for the narrative, so we're getting rid of that. But look, a lot of good things were thrown up. Like there was this group where parents go, right? Parents go with their kids for this sex education. And there's a talk and they both, you know what I mean? And that's, you know what I mean? That's a nice way of doing it, right? It opens the door for more conversation. And I think if your parent is taking you to that, then they're open to talking with you about all of these different things, right? So I think that's definitely a good thing. So yeah, look, it touches on a lot of good points. It really does. You know, it doesn't necessarily answer all the questions. And you wonder about because Alex is like, oh, I made this because of blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, does it answer those questions? Because you don't tell us, right? You don't tell us why you tried to kill yourself. So does it work on that level? I don't know. I don't know. You know what I mean? Is he in a loving situation? Who knows? Right? So it's just like it's hard to know if this kind of does what he wanted it to do, you know, which he sets out at the beginning, right? But yeah, it covers a lot of things. It talks to a myriad of different people, and I'm sure it will be a catalyst for conversation with a lot of people, which is always a good thing, right? Always a good thing, people. So yeah, there you go. Listen, it is out on Monday, and yeah, just from all your places where you download shit. So iTunes, Google, YouTube, Amazon. Yeah, you will be able to find a sexplanation, people. So yeah, if maybe you're a parent, right? And you're thinking, how can we have these conversations with these kids? This might be a thing, right? This might be a way to do that. And if you're like Alex, a confused 36-year-old, it might be something to help you there. But yeah, it is out on Monday, so you can go check it out for yourselves.